So we're COMP1050 and it's week 6, part 4. And we're talking about encapsulating the game. And Flash is awesome at this stuff. You'll see what I mean. So at this point, we have a game that runs the whole FlashMovie, right? The movie is whatever matching game X times FLA, and we have a matching action script file called matchinggamex.as, those two pieces. When the movie runs, the game initializes and starts. Starts going, right? The movie is the game, and the game is the movie. Okay, that's okay for simple situations, but what we want to do, we want to have an introduction screen, like we talked about for your project number 1. You want to have a game over screen, maybe a loading screen, if you want to, and other kind of screens, and maybe the game itself, right? So it's called encapsulation. We're going to encapsulate each of these things, and the way we're going to do them is we're going to put each of the screens in its own frame. Okay, this is kind of a different idea. So up until now, we've been using, the matching game x.as. We're not going to do that from now on. We're going to do something slightly different. So again, we can have movie clips inside movie clips. So even though FlashMovie itself is a movie clip, we can create a movie clip that's on a specific frame. Let's take a look and see how that's done. Here's frame 1, intro screen with a play button, right? Here's frame 2. Here's your gameplay screen, the actual game itself, the game movie clip, right? And here's frame 3, your game over screen. Now you can have many, many, many more of these. Example, and I want to caution you because maybe you're going to get to the point when you work on project number 2, which is going to be with a partner, right? You're going to have this. Frame 1 is your intro screen. Frame 2 is your easy level, like we did before. Maybe frame 3 is going to be your medium level. Frame 4 is going to be your harder level, or level 3, whatever you want to call it. Maybe frame 4 is going to be, or frame 5 is going to be your game over screen, right? And so on. Or maybe you're going to have game 6 as your instruction screen, and so on, right? Or maybe a demo that you want to try. So you're not playing the game, you're just practicing, practice mode, right? Whatever you want to do. You can do as many of those as you want inside a different frame. So how would we do it? What we're going to call matching game object is what we're going to call the actual game movie, right? And we're going to put it in frame 2. Okay. Let's take a look at these 3 frames. We're going to go to matchingGame7.fla. This is actually good to look at. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Matching game 7. So we're going to close down matching game 5. We missed matching game 6. Matching game 6 just added the game over screen. Actually, let's just show you that really quickly. Since we missed it, I want to show you. Again, here's the game over screen, and it's going to be on timeline, on the second frame of the timeline. And if I look at matching game 6, we kind of didn't look at really quickly. When we have a match, which is down here, we're going to go to and stop game over, which we've created a label for it to go and stop the game over frame, okay, of the main timeline. Okay, that's all we've done in matching game 6. And matching game 7, this is where we have a little bit more interest. Here we go. Here's matching game 7. Matching game 7 has 3 frames. It has the matching game, which is your intro screen, the game itself with a little dot on the left-hand corner. Take a look. It's only a little dot. And then there's the 3rd frame, which is the game over screen with another button. Okay? This is almost exactly what you need for your game that you're going to be submitting for project number 1. Right? Intro screen, the gameplay screen, and your end screen. Okay? Those 3 states. Let's go to frame 2. Frame 2 has this other frame in here that's an invisible symbol. Well, guess what? We have something called matching game. Here it is, matching game. And instead of us having a generic class document, or a document class right here, we don't have one. I don't have a document class here. Look, there's no document class. I've done it within the symbols. The symbol itself, it's an empty symbol that I've created, and I've created this game object, if you will, I've encapsulated it in the symbol itself. The symbol is called a matching game movie clip. And we're playing it only in frame 2. Frame 1 doesn't know anything about it. Frame 3 doesn't know anything about it. They don't know anything about each other. They only have, we only have access to the game itself when we hit frame 2. So let's see how that works. So again, we're going to create a new symbol. So we skip to the second frame. We see a single movie clip, and again, it's a completely empty frame. The way we've done it is we create an empty movie clip, right, inside of on our stage, right? And what we want to do is we want to stop the movie, right, as soon as we create the first frame. The first frame is going to be our intro screen, right? Well, if you notice, this is where it makes sense. Here, it makes sense to add in, let me go back to Flash, some timeline action script. Take a look. This is a combination of both. So I click on my timeline. In layer 1 of frame 1, I have a play button, add event listener. I'm waiting for this thing, and I'm also creating a stop. So it's not going to go to frame 2. Frame 2 is our movie, our game, right? I have a stop action so that way it doesn't flow into the second movie. And all I've done is created this, this function, start game, right? It's going to go to and stop. It's going to play whatever is in the movie clip that's in frame 2 when you click the button. So if I was to run it, I click the button, I go to my game, right? That's what happens. And all I'm doing is going from frame 1 to frame 2. Right? Not to frame 2. Frame 1 to frame 2, sorry. Okay, that's all I'm doing. So that's all this thing is doing. The first frame, this intro screen, and again, it's a very simple, stupid intro screen. Here you can embed a soundtrack. Here you can embed some better graphics that are related to your game. Something that says more than the matching game. You know, a little bit more interest, right? And then, you know, when the player presses play or clicks on another button, maybe he wants to get some instructions. He's got an instruction button. From here, he can go in and show the instructions or play the game or exit. One of the 3 options. Okay. So a couple things. So that's our first thing we've added in there. So again, it must stop the movie, right? So it doesn't go past frame 1. And it should set up a button that allows the user to start the game. That's the first thing. Okay, we've done that. On the second frame, so we've done the first frame. This is where your matching game object 7 sits, right? We need to rename the document class that was, we had the action script file that was called matching game object, whatever it was before, to matching game object 7.as. That's what we need to do. So that it's used by this movie clip and not by the main movie. It's only used by this movie clip. Then what we need to do is we need to create a go to and stop command, right? So there's a reference to the main timeline when the game is over, right? So the go to and stop command no longer works because the game is taking place in the movie clip and not on the main timeline. So this is where we have to reference the parent. And what you can do is like this. Movie clip, and in brackets, you're going to cast root, the parent, that you're looking at right now. Whatever the root of this movie clip is, you're going to cast it as a movie clip, and you're going to go to and stop the game over screen. You're going to add this piece of code inside your movie clip itself. Okay? So the first thing we've done is kind of created an empty movie clip. And the way we've done it is you go to the library. Let's do it together, right? So let's skip through this matching game 7 movie. I've kind of done some other examples. Let's look at that Red World movie, right, that I was doing. So I'm opening up this other example. Actually, I have this tank game. I'll use that because we kind of did the tank game. So here's our tank game movie, and right now we have 1 frame, right? We're going to add a couple more frames, all right? So this frame 1, we're going to put in the same kind of thing we're talking about, you know, and the tank game. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to change the this tank game I'm just going to change this, the font size to 50, let's say. So there's a tank game. Right, we're going to position it on the screen. Here it is. And this is going to be on frame 1, right? And we're going to add in a button. And there's many ways to do this. You can also import a button, right? That's already there, an oval button. Let's say a button. Let's see if I can get a regular button. There we go. I like that one. So I'll get this rounded double button. I'll put it on the screen. And what I'll do is I'll make it so that it's big. So it makes sense. Here it is. Enter. And instead of saying enter, I'm going to go to the library as an example. And now right now it's just a button. I'm going to double click on it. And inside there, inside the button itself, I have the text. I'm going to go inside the text itself with here and go start game. There we go. Start game. Okay, I'm going to change it so it's called start game. I'm going to leave the symbol, and now my button says start game. Here it is, right? And I'm kind of doing the same thing as we did before. I'm going to create an event listener, and I'm going to do that, right? Because this is my first title screen or whatever. I'm going to do that on the first frame here, right here, right? So two things I'm going to do. In the matching game, I have, here's the main timeline. I'm just going to call this main, right, as an example. And I'm going to create some action script in here called, I'll go stage.addEventListener, right? That's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to add an event listener for the button. Now I've got to create a linkage for my button as well, just like we normally would do. So here's our linkage. Here's my rounded double button. I'm going to make a property for it. Sorry, I haven't done this yet. And I'm going to call it start button. That's what I'm going to call it. Press OK. So my class is going to be called start button, and it doesn't have it, so I'm going to create it. I'm going to create my button. I already have it on the stage, right? So I've created an instance. I could also create an instance of the button itself, right? So if I go back to the stage for a second before I go do this, here it is, right? I click on it, and I'm going to call this start button. Right there it is, start button, right? And what I'm going to do in ActionScript, I'm going to say stage.addEventListener start button, or mouse, sorry, not stage, it's going to be start button. I'll be okay. Let's try this again. Start button dot add event listener, and we'll do mouse events dot click. There it is, and we'll say start game. And here we'll do the start game function. So function, which is the event handler, start game, and we'll push in a mouse event with void as a return value, and we'll go to and stop, go to and stop, and we'll say, now normally it would be the game, whatever it's called, tank game. Now we don't have that defined, so we're going to have to go to frame 2, insert a keyframe in here. Actually, we'll insert a blank keyframe. That's what we'll do. Or remove this keyframe. So here's a blank keyframe, right? And inside my blank keyframe, I'm going to label this tank game. Here's my tank game. Here's my start screen, right? And then I go to my third frame. I'm just going to take this information here. Actually, I'll just do it again. I'll make another button. So tank game. Insert blank keyframe, paste, and I'll put this up here. Game over, right? And again, I'm just kind of placing it here. You can be more precise. Again, I go back to my library, and you know what? Let's choose a different button. It's just a different kind of button. Rounded with stripes. Sure, I'll take that one. Just a different kind of button. And I will pull it open just to make it a little bigger. Right? And maybe what I'll put in there in the library is I've got another kind of button. Here it is. I'll double click this thing, and inside the text I will change this to start game or play again. Play again. Play again. That's cool. Go back into the scene. It says play again, right? I've got to create a connection for this type of button. So I want to create a linkage for ActionScript. I want to call it play again button, right? Play again button, press OK. And the same thing goes here. I'll just give it an instance of play again. Right? So I've got both play again button, and in my frame 1 I've got the start button. Right? So play again button. So again here in this thing I'm going to add a game over screen. So this is game over. So I've get game over. I've got the tank game. That's what this game is here, tank game. And I've got my start screen. Start screen, my tank game, and my game over or end screen. Let's call it end screen, just to be copacetic. In fact, instead of tank game, we'll call it game screen, just to be real. All right. So 3 states, 1, 2, and 3 that we've created. Game over state. We've created one event listener in here. Right? Instead of tank game, we're going to call this game screen. Right? Go to and stop game screen. And we have to stop this. We also have to add a stop command, because if we don't add a stop to it, then it'll just start the game right away anyway. It'll ignore our effect. Right? So that's the first part. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing for the game end screen. So here's the game end screen. Here's the button. We're going to do the same thing. So we're going to kind of say in here, oops, let's go back. In here we're going to add another piece of code. We're going to say play again button dot add event listener, and in there we're going to say what kind of thing we're listening. We're looking for a mouse event dot click, and we're going to say this mouse event dot click. We're going to call it play again. The function is going to be called play again. Now we've got a couple problems, because when we added our mouse event listener, we didn't add this mouse event. And typically what we want to try and do, let's go back to frame 1, is just to be sure, I want to import this event. Even though we don't need it, it's already in our class. But each individual frame doesn't know about the other frames, so it's good to kind of put it in. And in fact, if anything, we can just take this whole section here. We don't need to stop. And just kind of put it in here, right? And what we want to do is this time is we want to go to and stop start screen. Right, so we got start screen, and this time the play again listener goes to this thing called play again. Right, here's our play again. Stop, go to and stop the start screen. Right, so we've got a couple of things on the main timeline. Now I could have put these, and this is what I'm suggesting to you that you might think about doing. Each of these states could be their own movie clip file, each one, right? And that way each of them is encapsulated, right? So you could add in your own game, some animation, just like we did when we did Mail Pilot and thing. You might have an intro screen that has actual animation, or some actually it responds to events. You can be as complex as you want, right? Almost like a little demo screen going on the back end, right? And then when you press play or start or whatever, right? Here we go, start game. It'll catapult you into the game. All right, so we get that. And again, if I go back in here, frame 1 will make us go to the game screen, go to and stop. Frame 3 will make us go back to the start screen, right? And then the actual game itself is encapsulated in the middle frame, which we haven't defined yet. So now I'm going to go to the middle frame. There I am, right? And I still have a document class, tank game, and I'm going to take it away. So I'm going to take this tank game away, tankgame.as. I'm going to remove the document class from here. And what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to create an empty symbol. The way I do that is I go to library, right? And if I go to the top right of the library, I would say new symbol, right? And I can create whatever the symbol's called. Right now, right, the symbol is symbol 1. I can call this, you know, tank game object, right? Tank game object. I want to export for ActionScript, right, as an example. And what I want to do is I can instead of exporting it to tank game object, right, which I could, I mean I could rename my file tank game object right now, because right now it's tank game, right, which is okay. Press OK. It's going to say create for you, blah blah blah. Sure. And then so I've created this tank game object. Go back. Okay, so I haven't used it. I've just created the tank game object itself. Just pull it out of here. There it is. Here's my tank game object. So I'm in my second, kind of my second frame. In my courses folder, under my code archive, I have my tankgame.as. Right? Here's my tankgame.as. I'm just gonna name it tank game object. .as to make it simple. So here's my tank game object, right? And now when I go back, if I go back to tank game object and I go right click properties, here it is. And if I want to build it in Flash Player, there it is, movie clip, right? I can actually look at it. That's cool. But I got a problem. And my problem is that the base class, right? There is no base class for the tank game, right? If I look at the tank itself, the actual tank, which I already made, I have this flash display movie clip, and I probably should add this in as a base class for my tank game object, which I would have normally had if I had probably done it. Okay, so I've got my movie clip, but I haven't added it onto the screen. Now I'm going to drag and drop this empty movie clip that only is a link to an ActionScript file onto my screen. Here I am. Okay, and when I do that, I have this little dot that I put onto my script. I know this empty tank game object is on my screen now. It's part of my file, so it's going to run that object. So again, if I want to modify it, right-click, properties. I want to open it in Flash Professional. Here it is, right? And what this thing does is when I click on it, it says you click my bloody tank, right? And after I click on it, I click my bloody tank. It won't get me to my movie. I've got to be able to stop my movie and go to my third frame, right? And the only way that's going to happen when I've clicked on my movie, my tank once, it's going to allow me to do my tank once. I got to do this: movie clip root dot go to and stop, right? Actually, if I spell it properly, go to and stop, and then I've got to decide where it's going to be the end screen, right? So what am I saying here? I'm saying go to the root of this movie clip, go out one level, and then go to the main timeline and go over to wherever my end screen is. That's what I'm saying, right? So I'll save this. Save this, go back, fix it, save it, thank you, and then run it, see what happens. Now there's a problem. The reason why it's doing this is because I've got a reference error. It says TCM text is not defined, right? Error 165. Now the TCM text does not exist, this TCM text that's not defined, is variable, right? I don't have a TCM text variable here, and I definitely don't have a TCM text variable in here, right? I don't have a TCM text variable. I've got a flash event, I've got a game screen, right? I've got a start screen, go to and stop start screen, and if I look at my main timeline, right? In my timeline, I've got a label that says start screen, a label that says game screen, and a label that says end screen. These are all my labels, right? But it's not finding my my game over label. That's what it's looking for. This end screen that's looking for, it's not finding it. That's what's giving me the error. This is why it's the error that I'm getting. To test it, that I'm right, that's not understanding what this is, I can just go to and stop 3, right? Oh, sorry, go to and stop 1, I mean, that's what this means. This is go to and stop 2, right? Because it's going to go do that, right? And this is not, yeah, it's 1. If I run it now, so I'm wrong. So it's something else. It might be something with my variables that I use, these buttons. The reason why it's flashing like that is because it's trying to figure out what I'm doing, right? Because I've added these buttons in play, right? So if I take the buttons out, just for a lark, so here I am. So here's my first button. Take it out, and instead of my I'll make a button. So here we go. I'll make it you know, that thing that says play again, make it white text. We'll increase this size to big. Move it in here. And we will, in the buttons, just to make sure that this is the reason why it's happening. And again, this is there's so many different ways to do this, guys. But I will delete my buttons, and my play again button I'll create as a symbol. So I'll call this play again button, and I'll export it as play again button class. Okay, so I've got the play again button. And I'll do the same thing just to make sure that that's the reason why it's happening. Most likely it is the reason. I will create another button. Oops. Let's try that again. And some text, white color. Start game. Make sure it's the same. One button's pretty big. One button's pretty big, rabbit. Let's make it a little smaller. There we go. And we'll highlight this and we'll create a symbol, start game button. And we have forgotten to make a linkage. Properties, start game button, press OK, yes. And now we're going to change the action script. So it says start game button. And the action script here is play again button we already have. We'll save everything and we'll play it. And it does the same thing. TCM text is not defined. So why is it doing that? Let's take a look. I didn't do anything different. So error 1065 flash. A variable is not defined. Right. I understand. So, and it's probably going to be not here because this isn't the issue. Now I've isolated it to the movie itself, right? So if I go to the tank game movie, I right-click properties, and I adjust it here. I say, oh, I'm going to end screen. End screen doesn't exist. I'm going to move it to frame, go to and stop frame 3. Let's try that. No. My tank. Mouse event. Let's make sure that there's. Anyways, tank clicker. Click my bloody tank. Let me, if I just take this out for a second, just for simplicity's sake, see if that's the issue. That's not the issue. TCM text. So I don't know which variable they're talking about, but I've obviously made an error, right? And there's a variable that's that it's trying to figure out what to do with, and it doesn't know what to do with it. So the simple way to do it is we can remove the game itself from the timeline. So go to the timeline, and if I look up, here's the game symbol. If I delete it, right, and now I save it, so there's no game, and I run it, there's still an issue. And this is what I'm talking about here, trying to find out the problem. Timeline, isolating the problem. TLF text. Let's make it classic text. Tank game. That's not good. Let's undo that. Yeah, it's read only TLF text. That's just an instance of the movie clip class. And let's go back to here. And just for my things, I'm just going to erase this first one and see what happens. Run it. Still. Doesn't like it, that's for sure. Put it back. Start game. So something, here's the thing that's happening. Something is stopping this from working, right? We don't have we don't know where the error is, but one of these two movie clips, it's got to be one or the other, right? So, I mean, again, the way to do it is to remove everything and start over again. But for the instance of time, the idea is what I'm trying to give you here. I'm not going to try and figure out what this, it's going to just take too long to figure it out. I'm sure I can figure it out, but I don't know what the text error is. I've never seen that before in this particular context. But what we have here is 3 screens, a start screen, an end screen, and the middle of the thing where our game inside our tank game object lies. Here it is. And again, if we didn't have the start screen and the end screen, so just for simplicity's sakes, I'm going to remove those 2 frames. So here I'm just going to remove this first frame. So remove frames. And I'm going to remove the last frame just so that we don't have that error anymore. Right? And all I have is my game screen here, and I run it. And this is the error. Yeah. So somewhere in here, this TCM text is not defined in my tank game. And I'm guessing it's probably because the way I've defined it as an object, right? At least I know what it is. Okay, we're not going to fool around with this anymore. I'm going to go back to our main movie here. And this is the great idea though. Movie clip root, all I'm doing here is I'm encapsulating this, I'm casting root as a movie clip. And I'm using this go to and stop command to go to game over, which is what I've labeled the last frame, the third frame. Okay. So again, if I go back, what it looks like, again, I have the same kind of text. Play button, play again button. Here's the same kind of idea that I was doing. The function, play again, and I'm using a mouse event, and I'm using a go to and stop to go to the play game. So all I'm doing is moving to different frames. Okay, that's all I'm doing, playing different frames. When I click on a button, I go and play a different frame. To break that down even more, to find the error, what I would do is, and this is why I've done a lot here at once, I would create a movie clip that doesn't have any other movie clip inside of it. It just has the beginning screen and the end screen. And then what I would do what would go from there is I would kind of make sure that that works. I can go from one screen to the other, navigating the timeline, and then once I've got that working, I would add in the main movie clip class, which was working before. So I kind of jumped a little bit, and that's what happens. Okay, let's talk about scoring and adding a clock. So again, we've kind of created this movie clip that goes from one frame to the other, and the way this looks, if I go back to Flash here on the main timeline, and if I open up the FLA7 here, right, and I run it, here I am, I play the game, I start matching. I gotta see if I can finish this off to show you guys. See how good my matching skills are. And it's a little long, to be honest with you, to show you. But here it is. I can kind of putter along until I find the solution, if you bear with me. I saw that over here somewhere. And again, there's no points at this point, so it's okay. Well, otherwise I would lose a big amount of points. I saw that somewhere. Oh, there it is. And hat, that's good. Oh, there's the hat over here. And I think the face is over here somewhere, yep. Pencil's over here, isn't it? Yeah. And the book, no. Oh yeah, here it is. Sorry. The book. And as you can see, there's ways of cheating still, because we're able to look at multiple symbols at once and kind of find, there's here. Here, there it is. And there's the cup and the pizza. Bear with me, guys. Not that I want to play this game forever, but sorry, it's here and here, here and here, here and here. Yay, and game over. So that's how it goes. So I've got to the point where I've gamed over. Not bad. I didn't do such a bad job. Kind of pretty quick, right? But and then I can play again, and it switches me back into this game. One thing I think this game needs is, like, I give up. It takes a long time, right? Or if the timer runs out, then you should be able to stop the game, right? Again, 3 states, 1, 2, 3, right? Same kind of code. If I analyze it, exactly the same. I haven't done anything different on my side, right? So I know this code can't be the problem, right? If you notice, I've got a couple of buttons here, right? And if I look at the buttons on the frame on the actual timeline, so here's my play again button. It's called play again button, right? It's an instance object, right? And the same thing goes with my start button. Here's probably a start button right here. Here's play button, right? So that's okay. And then when I go to my other timeline here in the middle, and I look at my library, and again I click on here, properties, and go to my game, I've got this just right down here at the bottom where I've got this movie clip, root, go to and stop. When the game is over, when there's no more cards left, I go out one level, right? And from there, I use go to and stop to go to the game over frame, which is frame 3. Okay, that's all I'm doing in this particular movie. What I want to do is I want to go to the next one. We're almost done. We've got 2 more to go. I want to kind of hit these other ones. So here's 8, 9, and 10. And in 8, what we're trying to do is add this some timer and scoring, right? So we want to add a couple things. We want to add some points for match and a points for miss. Interesting how they did it. We created 2 constants. The points for match is you get 100 points every time you get a match. And you lose 5 points every time you miss. So right there, when I was doing my little matching game, I probably lost as many points as I got for matching, right? Because I was pretty bad, right? So that's the first thing that I do. I have a new text field for this game score field that I'm going to add in, right? And what I'm going to do is when this game score field's added, I'm going to add this game score field at the top left corner of my screen. That's what this does. I'm also going to import Flash text, right? I'm going to import this text file, so this text, because I want to be able to deal with text when I put text on the screen. That's really important, right? I'm also going to create this private variable, again, inside my class called GameScore, right? That's only available inside my class. I can have a negative value, so I have to make it an int. It can't be a UI int. A UI int is only a positive integer, right? I'm going to set this in the game score initially to 0, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that the score, I'm going to take this game score field and print it or display it to the top left corner of the screen. But I want to continue to update it. How do I update that thing, right? Well, I've got to use this function, show game score, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm changing the text value of the game score field to the new updated score. So I need to do that every time that I score. I do a turnover a card. I'm going to update the text value of my score and get this game score going. Okay, so I'm also going to do this. Game score plus equals to points for match. I'm going to do the same thing. Game score plus equal to points for miss. And it doesn't matter if I add a negative. If I add a negative, my value is going to go down. So this is, I could have put, instead of minus, I could have put a minus equals, but then I would have to have a value, like a positive value for miss. I don't want to have that. It's actually done correctly. My points for miss is a -5, and I want to plus add or plus equals a minus to my points, which means I'm going to reduce it by -5. Here's how the code would actually look. So I'm going to compare the 2 cards. Here's my comparison here, and every time I click a card and I miss, right, as an example, I'm going to, when I match, I'm going to increase my points for match. And when I miss, I'm going to increase my point for miss. And I'm going to show the game score every time I do that. So first I'm going to increase my game score, and then I'm going to show it. Okay, before I add a clock, I want to take a look at that. So let's take a look at Flash. Let's look at how the FlashMovie works. So I play. I've got my game score on the top left corner now. So I've got some kind of paper and a light bulb. And if you notice, I'm going negative. Oh, no, I thought I saw it. Well, let's see how negative I can go. Book, pizza. I haven't hit 2 symbols twice. Oh, there we go. Now I got 100 points, but I got all those minuses. So I was actually in a negative, and I went to the positive with my score, right? And I have a flag and another computer and some other stuff down here. I thought I saw that down here. No, maybe not. There it is. Over here. And I'm back to 135. And I got a cup. I think the cup was over here somewhere. Okay, maybe not. Here it is. Thank you. Keep laughing. It's okay. Was that?
Like, because you don't actually, you immediately get revealed successful.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not that difficult. It's just that, you know, you have to, you can see my scores is going up higher and higher, right? It's just that what it does, every time I make a false match, what was it again? Here it is. Every time I have a false match, I lose points, right? That's the whole point with it. I don't know where that is. Oh. And a couple leaves. I think yeah. And I'm almost done. The point is here that my score is going to continue to lower the more mistakes I make. So even though my score goes up, you know, the better player I am, it's going to affect my my positive score, and broom, broom, until I fix again. So again, one thing it didn't show here in this version of version 8, matching game 8, it did not show my game stats. I don't have my game stats at the end of the screen, and I need to have them. How do I do that? So let's go open up second last one. I'm going to close this one down. I'm going to open up matching game 9. Second last one we're going to look at. Okay, oops, I got the wrong one, which is fine. It's matching game 9, match game 9, FLA. And again, I have a few screens, but now if you notice, my game end screen has a couple of more fields, right? I have a show score field and a show time field, so a couple of extra fields that I'm going to update. I've got matching game, and I've also got my main gameplay in the middle, as an example. And now what I want to do is I want to add a timer. Well, in order for me to get a timer, there's a couple things I need to do. If I use the get timer function, I get the time right now in milliseconds. So it's a number, whatever that number is, 5, 10, 150, whatever it's going to be, right? What I need to do is get the difference between the time now, just like we did in ActionScript, and the time in JavaScript, I mean, the time now and the time in the future in order for us to make a timer. Let's take a look. So here's the start time, and here's the game time, right? And there's also another variable called a text field variable that we're going to create called game time field. This is the game time field, which we're going to update, right? So we're going to say the game time field is equal to a new text field. We're going to define a new text field. We're going to set it to the x value to 450, which is going to be the right side of the screen. That's where we're going to put it. We're going to add the add child, which means it's going to be added to the screen itself, right? Then what we're going to do is we're going to say our game start time is get timer. Get timer says this is the time now, right? And our game time starts at 0, right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add an event listener to the stage, right? Which is an enter frame event. And the enter frame event is going to start polling the timer every frame. It's going to do that 12 times a second. It's going to update things. So it's pretty good in that, from that perspective. Here's what it looks like. We're going to show the time. We're going to call this show time function. And then what it's going to do is going to say the game time is equal to the game timer minus game start time. So whatever the game timer now, the current time, minus the previous time that we started, right? Because our new time is going to be more seconds than the original time we started the game, right? That's what our new game time is. And we're going to take the time and we're going to shove it out into the text value for the text value of the game time field. Put it on the right-hand side. We're going to do that every frame, okay? Or 12 times a second. We're going to update the time, the time that's going on right now. But it's going to be done. This is the problem. It's going to be done in milliseconds. We've got to be able to convert this into something that makes sense. And right now, here's what we're going to get: 123.726, something like that, right? Well, we got to convert this into how many seconds it's been, right? To this number, something like a digital time like this. And in order for us to do that, we've got to create another function called ClockTime, right? we're going to say our seconds and minutes. We're going to have seconds and minutes, and we're going to basically take milliseconds that we're going to pass into the clock time, divided by 1,000 is the number of seconds. And seconds, right, or minutes is the number of seconds divided by 60. We're going to say seconds minus equals the minutes times 60, right? So we're going to basically break out our time between minutes and seconds. That's what we're going to do. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to return a time string back out from this particular function, right? We're going to say the time string, we're going to define a time string that's equal to the number of minutes plus a colon plus, we're going to convert seconds plus 100 to a string, and we're going to get a substring, the first substring of that, basically whatever's left over from the 100, right? We're going to get that 59. So we're going to create this digital watch format. Okay, so let's see how that works. Before we go here, we also have to update those two, the game score as well as game time. We have to kind of update those two things with our game score that's inside our function and our clock time function for game time, right? A nice formatted version. So game score and game time are going to be equal to the game score and game time from our clock. So we have to kind of bring that up a level when we hit the root, okay? So let's continue on. And it's going to display a nice set of scores. So we go back to our FlashMovie. Right, here's our FlashMovie. And if I run it, right, I play it. Now I have a time on the right side. And there's no way I'm going to win right now because I don't have the time to do this. So as you can see, it's going to play out. Oops. And it goes down here. No, maybe not. Anyways, the point is that it's going to keep counting the time, as you see. And it's going to keep counting my score into the negatives as I get worse and worse at this game. Oh. Again, not the most exciting game, but what the idea here is for you to find the, it's down here somewhere, maybe. Yeah, there's the game framework from it. What you want to do is you want to look at this game framework and you want to go to the next screen. The next screen, obviously, I'm not going to do this right now because I'm not good at it, but it's going to take you to this game screen, which is going to display the total time and the total score, right? Okay, let's go to the next one, the last one, the final movie, right? Which is the important part of it. So here's matching game 10. We have a couple other elements we've added in matching game 10, right? We've added some sound effects and other game effects here, right? So how do we do that? We have to create, in order for us to create sound effects and animation, right? We've had to create another class file called card10.as. We've had to do that in this particular case. So we've created a new card. So instead of making a stub of a card that we had in Flash before, we've created this this new card class. And the card class, what it does is it creates a frame flip animation, which, by the way, I think you should take a look at on your own, right? Because I can go through it. But basically what it does is as the time goes, the scale of the card, right, as an example, changes from 100% all the way to 0 and back out to 100. So basically it looks like it's flipping, but all it's doing is it's changing the scale of the card to make it 100%, shrinking it down into a line and going back out to 100 to make the flip happen. That's what it looks like. And that when it flips over, you're going to show the frame, right? So it's kind of a neat way of doing the card flip. So this is where the card flip is added. We've done the card flip, and if you read through this, it's going to show you the way to do that. And then we have a limited time view. We're going to set up a timer, and this time what the timer is going to be called is a flipback timer. The flipback timer is going to wait 2,000 milliseconds or 2 seconds, right? And basically what we're going to do is we're going to add in this timer event, a timer complete. When the timer complete is initiated, when we have that 2,000 milliseconds, we're going to launch this return cards callback function. This callback function, return card, is going to fire. We're going to start the timer. right? So every 2,000 milliseconds, right, as an example, it's going to fire this timer event, if you will. And here's the what it looks like, right? So we're going to start the flip, right? And we're gonna set up this timer event object, flip back timer, and we're gonna want on timer complete. We're gonna call return cards, right? So what is it doing? It's calling itself, right? So it's it's removing its own timer. So once the timer is complete, it's removing its own timer, removing itself, and you're doing that within the function itself. This is okay, right? So actually, I can remove listeners as well as add them. And all I'm doing here is when the timer is complete, I'm removing it so that way it doesn't go on anymore. It's not going to keep on, flipping cards over. It doesn't make any sense. It only happens it only starts when you start flipping cards the first time. Okay. Sound effects. We have 3 files: first card sound, miss sound, and a match sound. What we want to do is, as soon as one of those we have to actually import FlashMedia sound and sound channel, and we're defining these sounds right away. As soon as the Flash file is going, we define these 3 sounds. They're in the library. We import them into the library, and then what we're going to do is we're going to play this sound, whatever the sound object is. So we make a generic sound object, and if you notice, in this case, instead of an event or some kind of specific object, we're getting an object. We're receiving an object, a type object, which means any kind of object. That's what we're doing. And whatever the sound object is, we're going to play it. Okay, so so instead of making 3 different functions to play the sound object, we only have 1. Right? We're going to send that sound to be played. So again, we're going to play sound, the first card sound, play sound, the second card sound, or the miss sound, play sound, the match sound. Every time you play the different sounds, you're going to play it based on the sound that you're doing. So the final movie looks like this. Okay, so here's game 10. I'm playing it. So, and then it flips over, right? And the little animation, right? Flips. Oh, luck. You could. But the point is, and I'm not going to do this too much longer here, but the point is, it's a fully complete game. To this point, and we'll end it like this for today, right? At this point, we've got an intro screen, a game end screen, a timer object, a score, right? And an encapsulated game that's in the middle frame. So we've defined 3 different states, and we can define many more. Remember, I can always define the exact same game with slight modifications on frame number 3, on frame number 4, on frame number 5 to increase the difficulty level, change the way the screen looks. So here we have a simple matching game, and right now we only have 1 level with a 6x6 grid. Maybe what we can do is take it even further and go, our first 6x6 grid, right? Or it might be not 6x6, maybe it's going to be 2x2, our first level. And then we're going to go 3x3, 4x4, 5x5, 6x6, and so on, and keep going up higher and higher difficulty until, it's really challenging. The whole screen is full, right? So we can go to that level, and I think, and we can add more cards, or maybe there's only some cards, there's no match, something like that, right? I'm just saying, we can decrease the timer. If the timer runs out, instead of it counting up for the timer, we can count the timer down, right? So that you only have X number of seconds like we did in our Android game.
Maybe you can show the cards at the beginning and turn them around.
You could do that too, right? Any questions, anyone, before we finish for the day?